So, hi everyone. So, such a pleasure to have all of you, five amazing directors on Film Companion. We're all here, of course, to talk about the series of shorts that you made, which look at finding hope in the midst of a global pandemic and finding hope in a lockdown. Sudha, I want to start with you. You said that what drew you to this was the nature of the project. Can you explain that a little more?
Okay. So when Amazon came to us in the middle of a lockdown, actually it was Section 144 at that time. It was in May sometime. And they wanted us to shoot it within a month. And we knew the Section 144 would continue. So they said with 5 people, that is cast and crew, you have to shoot. And we don't mind if you shoot it on an iPhone, but just give us HD quality. And then there is not going to be, you can be your own cameraman, you can be your own sound guy, you can be your whatever. But this is the kind of thing, and it is about hope. And I think the underlying thing, the statement they wanted to make was, even in the times of a pandemic, creativity cannot be suppressed, creativity cannot be killed. And I fell in love with that thought. That was the first thing. Second thing, as we started putting in these guidelines and the rules, it became very challenging. Oh, I can't have a cameraman. I can't have a lightsman. I cannot have a focus puller. I can't have, various things. So then we started streamlining the whole thing. And my cameraman, without lights, how do you shoot? Me, without a dance master on set, how do you shoot dances? And I wanted songs with my film. So how do you do that? So it was just crazy, but it was just so much fun because it was like going back to your student days or worse. So the restrictions were so fabulous that I think the best in you came out. You just had to kind of, take the challenge up front and just go about doing this film, which can't look too small or too little. It has to look good for Amazon. And at the same time, you have these restrictions. So that was the challenge.
So everyone kind of shot with these restrictions that limited, how was it for the
3
rest
days?
of you?
3 days, just 3 days. Imagine.
Three days of shoot.
Yeah.
I think, some amount of restrictions is good because, like all of us who have watched Iranian cinema kind of feel that they somehow seem to get through to human emotions a lot stronger than the others. And at the same time, they are not, man and woman aren't allowed to touch each other, and all that kind of restrictions that they have has not stopped them from producing very emotional films. And sometimes when all restrictions are lifted, you do the most obvious thing and you don't really push the envelope in your writing, in your creativity. I think a certain amount of restriction makes you work within a certain thing, and your concentration is heightened because you cannot rely on somebody else to do something. You will have to do it yourself. Like, you got somebody else to come and, do gaffer and all these kind of things. You have to sort of work with yourself. So there is a greater sense of authorship, and I think our inner voice comes out stronger when you're facing some restriction.
What is the minimum number? Of course, there's the cast. The director is on set. What is the minimum number of people that you guys had on a set?
Max is 10.
The max allowed was 10.
Yeah.
6 on set, 4 off set.
They told me only 6.
Okay.
To me, they
4
said
off set,
there's
ma'am.
only 6.
Okay. Did that depend on your script and how many people were in the cast as well? Because those would be extra. That's including the cast.
Yeah, including the cast. Only 6 people on set.
Okay.
All these films look like we had 80 to 100 people on board. I can assure you that.
Okay.
I had about 14 people on the sets, I think. Although the brief given was to try and restrict it to 10. I went to shoot with PC Sir, so there was a lot of planning that went into the shoot. We had to allow for some lights to come in because it's completely inside, a space, and it had to be with 2. We didn't have the regular, caravan waiting, and the actors didn't have multiple people with them to assist them and all that. Even right down to post, we worked with very restricted crew. Like every department, there was just one person in that sense. So it can be done, but it makes it just that much more difficult. Yeah.
So Gautam, did working on Karthik Dayal Sadiyan kind of help this? Did you carry over something that you learned from there into this?
No, not at all. That was shot on the iPhone and will pale in comparison to something like this. This was proper work. This was a lot of work that went in, given the restrictions. But like I said, if you look at any of our films from the shots and the trailer that I can see, it'll all look like, everybody went in with a big crew and shot with how you normally shoot a feature film. So That was just something that I had over 10 minutes, which I wanted to put together with.
Okay.
And I just needed 3 people on board, So that was not that at all.
Yeah, I mean, initially when they said, they said it should be like 5 inclusive of the cast and crew, but then later it increased to 10. But I think I ended up somewhere around having 15 people.
Okay. Karthik, one question I wanted to ask you is, when you have a big movie like Jagame Tandram waiting for release and not knowing there's so much uncertainty about the date and stuff like that right now and the atmosphere, does it stress you out, or are you just like putting it at the back shelf and saying, let me do other things like this and kind of get my mind off that?
No, actually it was when the lockdown actually started, I haven't actually completed the Jagame Tandram final cut. So initially it was actually like 7-day lockdown. That's how it started. Then they announced it like a 21-day lockdown. So then I immediately felt it is very, very much relieving. Like you get to work and go and work. So it was actually more. I felt very happy that we have something like this to work on.
Rajiv, you brought up authorship. We were just curious. Of course, you're all very distinctive directors. You all have scripts that you worked on for this project. But there is a back and forth with Amazon, with this massive global streaming giant. How comfortable or uncomfortable did this tug of war get? Because, the stories of directors having sort of fights with the suits, quote unquote, are legion, all across the world. It's the creative differences. It's about what the corporates want and what creative people want. How did all of you tackle this with, Amazon sort of being there to monitor the scripts, approve the scripts?
In this particular case, they weren't giving me a diktat that, or to any of us saying that this is the story that you have to make. It's a story is being sort of envisaged by us. And then what it means is there's a lot of back and forth to actually try to optimize the writing and try to find the focus. So while I may have like 5 different ideas when I start off with, but it is one particular aspect of the idea that really fascinates them. And that could be probably because the other emotions may already have been there in the other films. And I'm not privy to what the others are making, or I am not calling people and asking them, hey, what are you doing, or anything like that. You generally are hearing something, but it's not that you're on a WhatsApp chat and saying I'm doing this and I'm doing that kind of stuff. So probably they fine-tuning that till the last day of the shoot, because scripts are like babies, you leave them alone, they're wallowing in their own shit. Then like you have to clean it up. It's all the time happening. So I think that aspect is we are all the time doing it. But when you find, emails arriving, it can be disconcerting for some, saying that, what are you doing? This is my idea. What are you talking about? Actually, what they're trying to do is to optimize what you set out originally to do, and then probably, remove like 5 different things inside it and say that, okay, don't have 5 different things, just stick to one and focus on that. I think that was what was largely the case, but we didn't have any other kind of mandate or a censorship guideline saying that don't have this or don't have this. It was go ahead and make what you want, but focus onto this particular aspect of your story.
See, my characters had to come from abroad. Okay. One from UK and the other from Dubai. I'm talking about the character in the story. And my timeline was somewhere around March 10th, because in Chennai, all the flights got cancelled before, March 25th. So so at that point, nobody was wearing a mask and there was no quarantine. But the emails, like Rajiv said, the emails kind of reminded me. People would tend to forget that around March 15, people were not into quarantine. So I had to make sure that my characters went into quarantine and then came home. Those kind of details where creative people don't really, put our minds into it. So those were kind of looked after by the corporates. I think that way it was an advantage, and also being politically right and socially right, because we tend to write what we want to write. And then they kind of, nobody spoke anything, I thought they were going to tell me, how are you going to shoot it? Who's going to be there? And, what is the call sheet like? But they were all very silent. And then I realized, okay, I'm not being scrutinized. They're just lending an ear to me. That's how I felt.
I had a nice, happy experience because I had three short ideas, and Shalini just heard out all three, and she was like, for everything I was saying, she was like, oh, this is fantastic, this is fantastic. Then I said, okay, listen, which is the best? So she chose one, and I went ahead and we wrote it in 2 days, and then we went to filming. And there wasn't much, like, I think, there was a brand that I had quoted in the film, which they wanted removed. So the legal department had a few issues like that. But otherwise, creatively, nothing. Even the length and everything, they were very accommodating, actually. I found it easy.
No, I think the question also comes from the point where maybe Hindi films work a little differently, but in Tamil cinema, the way the producers and directors are, with the exception of maybe your producer, Karthik, Shashikant, and maybe a few people like that, we don't really have the concept of creative producers in Tamil cinema. Most of the producers are basically people who give the money and then pretty much back off, right? It's like there are very, very few who actually dictate the content or shape the content in terms of, that's why it's kind of interesting to hear about this process, about how you felt about getting into this process,
But actually, Shashi is the most democratic of all the producers. It's just so cool to work with producers who leave you be.
Okay.
And that's, I think,
put the whole thing into English so that he could send it over to the people to read at Amazon and then kind of get feedback. I was wondering if all of you did the same thing, and B, if there was any loss in translation that kind of, as you went back and forth in this process.
Actually, I sent my first draft written in Tamil, actually.
Okay.
So I think Kalyan is the sort of a producer here from my company who actually took care of the production. So I sent it to him and I send it to people in Amazon.
Did you have to censor anything?
No. At least for the sake of reading, yeah.
Reading, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you are shooting like this, when there are restrictions of 3 days, whatever, 10 to 15 crew, and like Sudha, you said that there is a brand that cannot be part of it. There is scrutiny at some level of the actual script. Where is the room for improvisation? Bharadwaj was telling me about Mahesh Shinde Pratikaran and how they actually created so much of that film on the set. The basic architecture was there, but then Shyam would be on the set creating, writing as it happened. Was that at all possible? Could you do it?
Yeah. So you have two actors like Urvashi and Jairam. Just try to control them. It's impossible. They're like coming up with new lines, new ideas. They want to suddenly jump from a chair to another window to something. I mean, it's you stage, you think about it all. You've written it a certain way, but they're doing exactly what they want to do. There's one shot in the film which none of us. I didn't think of it. Like he comes and he knocks, and she says, "Who's there?" When you see the sequence, you'll understand how funny it is. And she just came up with it. So, and all this just became better. So I don't think Amazon had an issue.
At somebody's place, these Zoom calls happening, or work from home stuff happening, and the family getting involved in those calls and stuff like that. So it was just an idea based on that. And then she said, this is what I want to do. And I liked the idea. And she turned it around in about 3 days. And I think the script was approved immediately. And then we went into shoot. And then, like Sudha said, once you go into shoot with that writing, there's a lot of improv that happens on the sets. Yes, we try and stick to the script and the lines and everything. So to answer the earlier question, also the script was written in English. And I did the Tamil dialogues, and both were sent to Amazon for approval. And if approval is the word, yes. And then it came back saying, yes, just go ahead for shoot. And then the restrictions were only in terms of crew and safety and all that stuff. But otherwise, once you go to the sets between PC Sir, myself, MS Bhaskar and Ritu, the actors in my film, there was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of analyzing what can be done. And there was a lot of development on the set. So it was a beautiful process, just like how I shoot every feature film of mine. I go in with an idea and we take it forward, from there. So, and in that sense, even the edit, like Sudha said, once we sent the first edit, I think the only concern was to try and keep the length in accordance with every other film. So there's some uniformity maintained. So maybe I think I had to reduce a minute just to keep it in tandem with everybody else's, length of their films. So other than that, there was absolutely, it was easy, and it was a very happening sort of a film. Yeah.
No, for me, there was no possibility of improvisation because I was directing and acting. So,
I'm going to ask you about that.
I was acting and directing, and I was the worst actress on the set, because there's nobody to tell me that it's going wrong. But anyway, Anupama, I had to do a lot of homework. For example, I was shooting in a bedroom, and I knew that we shot only for 3 days. So in 3 days, there was no way I was going to finish all the work if I gave enough time for lighting up for my cameraman, if I shot in order. So I had to take all the shots of one block. Raji will understand. So I could do that. One lighting, if it's the same day and if the mood is the same thing. So we quickly went and changed costumes and came back. That way it was quite tough. But Anu and myself, we kind of talked about it earlier and said the other actor was like surprised, why are you asking me to change the costume when the scene is not even over? I said, I'm just taking this block shots and then after that. So I had to plan it because I was also directing, and I didn't have a producer. I'm the producer myself. So
Multitasking.
I was multitasking. I was also the touch-up person for everybody because I'm the one who was keeping the sanitation intact. And every 5 minutes, I was asking my artists to wash their hands and things like that. In my unit, it's the technicians who were very, very strict and fine. It's the actors who half the time forgot that they had to wash their hands and wear masks. And some shots, all of us were wearing masks. And then I said, oh my God, we're all wearing masks. We have to take it off. So those kind of things happen. And I planned it so well. First day, it's all indoor like this. And second day, outdoor, and it rained in the morning. It rained. Just 3 days of shooting and 2 days it rained. So I said, oh God, we are having the same problem that we have during feature films too. But we just had to, improvise at that point and then come in. For me, a lot of planning.
What's awesome?
To improvising because it's corporate and they are very careful about copyrights and things like that. All of us grew up with film music, and every character for some reason or the other sings a film song or the favorite song. And I had like 3 songs in my film. One happened to be a Spanish song. One was a French rendering. And the third was a proper Tamil song from the 1960s. But then I realized, oh my God, copyright problems. So I ended up writing all the 3 songs in Spanish, in French, and in Tamil. Those are the kind of improvisations that had to happen because of the strict and, like the corporate setup.
Just out of curiosity, had this been your own, like a non-corporate production, you would have just used the song, the 60s song that you wanted?
I would have used it. I would not have bothered. I would have used it. I would have used a Spanish song and I would have asked my producer to take care of it. Don't worry. Like, yeah, I've done this. I'm not going to change it. You take care of it. I would have said it. But now I had to take care of it.
Gautam, you spoke about the length, and this is the question I'm asking all of you. When you do features, there are all kinds of rules. Like some people say a page a minute, some people say all kinds of things, right? So you used to a certain, 2 hour-ish, to 2 to 2.5, whatever hour kind of a thing. When you are asked to write short, like a short film, did all of you end up writing a little more and then having to kind of condense it while shooting and editing? Or did you kind of crack, this is exactly how much I have to write for this particular duration?
10 pages, page to a minute.
Page to a minute, that still worked for you?
Page to a minute, yes.
There is a certain amount of improvisation that you do while shooting because you're actually struggling to keep up with time. So even after year and all that, everybody was growing a beard. Nothing is changing around you. Every day is the same, but the beard is growing. So I thought that this beard growing for a guy was like a telltale sign of time, how time is passing. And on top of it, I've taken Sikil Gurucharan, who looks like a doctor, doesn't look like a classical singer, but he's always clean shaven and he had grown a beard. So I said, you keep the beard. Now let's work backwards. So I had to shoot the final sequence the first day, the next sequence with a little trim, and then clean shaven and things. So I was shooting the film backwards with a person who's acting for the first time. So all kind of crazy things you try and which you...
This is to show the passage of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is also, Rajiv, the first time you're shooting and directing.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
Yeah, I think I was overreacting, taking myself too seriously as a director, and it comes naturally. But I always felt that I must be calm and, be there for my actors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm quite hyper as a cameraman. So it's like, so I think that, but it's actually age and the fact that you're shot a lot that you tend to say, okay, and now digital. So you don't have to worry about exposure. You're seeing it. So you don't have to wake up in the night saying, oh God, was the exposure right or wrong? So therefore, filmmaking has in that sense become less stressful. But I think in terms of visualization, I did find this time, I found it useful being a cinematographer in this case, because sometimes you're solving, what can be taken in 3 or 4 shots into one.
Even if he has a cinematographer, he's still shooting and directing.
So this is a question for Rajiv and Suhasini mainly, but the others, please feel free to chime in. Now, as former cinematographers, what is your whole take on this film versus digital debate? I mean, do you really think film is superior? Now, I'm not talking about the convenience. I'm talking about the product. What is your take on this?
I'm not a former cinematographer. I'm working cinematographer.
No, but you don't shoot your films. You don't shoot your film. I'm talking about Suhasini, actually. So sorry.
I'm former everything, okay?
So Suhasini is getting back. I've been giving her iPhone lessons. I keep teaching her how to do editing her pictures and all that. So when we were in Singapore on a jury together, we were always discussing cinematography. So she may shoot her next film.
That's
I think
if you're willing to let me shoot, I'm ready.
Yeah. So I think film versus digital. I think the biggest difference I find is that the attention span in the shoot was much higher when film was there, because it was literally going through. So everybody was really conscious about continuity, and everybody was writing. Now none of the assistant directors write, because they just want to go back and turn back. Actors are finding continuity themselves. There's nothing called a continuity sheet now, So that aspect is really disconcerting. But having said that, there is, a whole lot of knowledge which you don't need now. It's like saying that, it's like somebody saying, oh, a gear shift car is brilliant. You could hear the engine and then change gear. Now with an automatic car, why? It just moves ahead, right? So the stress on cinematographers have become less, and major Hollywood cinematographers like Roger Deakins say, I'm able to sleep better now when I'm doing it. So I think that way, the entire stress level in the set is much lower. And another thing is that it's opened up a whole lot of new possibilities in cinematography. I think what was missing initially is that people were putting the same amount of light in the same way that you do for film. And film is very forgiving as far as specular light is concerned. But your light has to be much softer. So people are really struggling. So because the light became softer, they were losing their contrast. But now they realize that, these are the possibilities that digital offers. And it's wonderful. And, so I think there's a new vocabulary coming up. And at nights, everybody's shooting nights so much more. It's so much easier now. So I think you have to embrace new technology and, try to find how it will help us tell stories.
I like to add, in my film, 2 scenes were shot by Ajay and Vincent. And the rest was shot by Selva. Selva believes in the, lighting which is done today, depending on the digital camera. But Ajay is like Vincent Master. So I belong to that group, but I'm equally comfortable working with somebody like Selva who thinks on his feet. Like Rajiv said, I'm a former cinematographer, so I have the liberty to say, I think today's cinematographers are still cracking the digital platform. I don't think they've cracked it. Very few have cracked it, like Rajiv and PC, and some of the cinematographers have cracked it. The others are still struggling, is what I feel. There is some extremely extraordinary talent that is available in the youngsters, but they're still cracking the, especially the focus part. They're not giving any kind of leeway to the director or to the, you give me one more position, because I can't go and tell Rajni sir, you stand here, you stand here, you stand there, I have to take focus. But today, for the focus pullers, we have to, as actors, we have to stand and give those 5-6 positions. Otherwise, it goes for a retake where we've already done so well in the particular shot. But because of focus pulling, it goes to that. Sorry, it's getting too technical.
No, it's fascinating. So,
because the movement of the artist is suppressed because of the digital. Like the cinematographer asking, what aperture did Ashok Kumar or, Vincent or somebody give? 5.6. Where is 5.6? Nobody is giving aperture of 5.6 today. Isn't it, Rajiv? Today. It's low light. It's 2.8.
I think primarily because people want to give a softer image and, less depth of field. But sometimes when you push it too hard, you can really screw it up. That's happened when people were first doing CinemaScope. A lot of cinematographers were very good in flat. When they came to CinemaScope, they were having these, sharpness issues. So people said, no, you have to shoot f4 or something. But I feel it's a combination of lensing and how close you are, and also the kind of focal distance that you're maintaining. All these things are related, depth of field and things like that. So I'm of the opinion that it's just the confidence that the person has behind the camera and his ability to master, all the parameters with which he gets the optimum image that allows the unit to function at optimum creativity. It's not just the cinematographer who's important. So ultimately, people cry because the actors are...
The frame itself is that the cinematographer decorates the frame. Earlier on, it was not the job of the cinematographer. He will just ask the set art director to do it. Right now, if you see, all the cinematographers are going and filling up the frame here, turning the curtain, So it's become like that. Somehow I feel like a cinematographer should capture the action instead of, arranging the frame, decorating the frame. I might be wrong.
The other three of you as directors, what is your take on this whole film versus digital thing?
See, I shot on film, my first film, and I had those 250 cams given to me, and I was the focus, my attention. I was so disciplined because you just didn't have that kind of luxury. And my second film, I shot digitally, though I had the option of shooting on film because it was an action film and I had to shoot a lot. I chose to go with red, and also because of the kind of images that you get with red, I wanted that. So I chose to do that. And the kind of freedom it gives you, digital, it's a different game altogether already. It's like, cutting on the Steenbeck vis-a-vis like cutting on the Avid. So somewhere there is progress and I like it. It gives me the liberty and I love it. And of course I miss film because of that. You're striving so hard and you're working so hard with an Alexa to get what you got on film. So it's not like, we don't miss film. It's obviously that's why you're trying to recreate everything. In fact, this particular shot, we wanted to shoot it on black and white film, but we said, forget it. With all these restrictions, near impossible.
Yeah, for me, I have not shot anything in film. And for me personally, like if there was no like a transition from this film to digital, maybe I wouldn't have been a filmmaker yet. And so I think that is a very important transition technically that gave that sort of opened doors to many filmmakers like me, because I just shot for this Miracle short film which we shot for Puttam Pudu Kalai. It had a lot of night sequences. It had a lot of night scenes, and with the constraints, and actually we were not allowed to shoot like after 10 o'clock because there was a lockdown, and there is so what we did is we shot in our office, and then we just put all the black cloth in all the windows, and then we created a night sequence. And again, we shot only with the mobile lights. We didn't use any sort of lighting. So Shreyas Krishna was the cinematographer. So with all the constraints, he could pull off a good thing, and I felt that is possible, maybe because of the digital thing. So and always, because film, when you see like the films which are shot in film, obviously, you feel that. It's all like a classic, and but I haven't worked in film. Worked with a film camera, so I don't have much say about that. But I would definitely say this digital coming in sort of brought lot of new talents into it, either be a cinematographers or directors or even actors, because once people like short filmmakers coming into feature film sort of brought in a lot of actors. So I think the entire industry sort of changed. So I think it opens up a lot of opportunities. So technically, yeah, obviously, because I always wanted to shoot something in film and see like how it feels. But so far I haven't got that opportunity yet.
But even like he said, I had night sequences in my film, and it was really, really difficult because I was shooting with red. Because at that point of time, we said only 6 people can be on set, so I couldn't have lightmen, and I just had a focus puller. Because I had a focus puller, I had to let go of the idea of live sound, so I didn't have a sound guy. So with all that,
The screen. So
Oh, good. Okay.
we are like digital kids.
Gautam, were you going to add something to that?
No, I think they've pretty much covered that. Right? It's like listening to a 80s Raja Sir song, right? It does something to you. I think that's what shooting on film is like. You want to go back to it, but then that's still in the 80s, and there's a lot more music now which is still working around what somebody like Raja Sir created, and it's just improvs the same thing. So, like Rajiv Sir said, the process is made easier. So then we're all in it now, and hopefully looking forward to what will make. There's a lot of work that goes into filming and production itself, and we're all looking at what's next probably. So we're in it right now. I've shot about 8 films on film, and I've enjoyed the process. I was one of the, I think, like everybody else maybe in this group also, there was a lot of resistance to shooting digital when Kamal Sir spoke about digital camera and the advent of red and all that stuff. We were all looking at it with a lot of suspect sort of a thing. But then we started embracing it at some point, right? And now we're looking at what's next. So I think we're in it right now, and we're enjoying the process. It's making things easier for sure.
Gautam, you mentioned 80s and Raja Sir and all that, and you're working with P.C. Sriram. And this is I know how much you love Nayagan, and this is like such a big deal for you, right? Personally as well as professionally. What was that like? I mean, just tell me, were you like able to overcome your awe and just like give instructions treat this person like a normal person?
Well, I couldn't treat him like a normal person. I remember mentioning I mentioned to Mani sir a few days ago that, Nayagan, on the credits of Nayagan, you will see Mani Ratnam, Ilayaraja, PC. He insisted on, seeing the location and then working on what the shots will be like. And then when we went in, it was something else altogether. If you see the film, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's not in your face. It's with the script and it's with the mood of the film and all that stuff. But it will still, make a difference. I think that's what his cinematography has done to this particular film, at least. And in terms of sync, I think it's the best sync I've ever experienced with the cinematographer. I think we were completely on the same page throughout.
Since you brought up money, sir, Suhasini, I have to ask. I always wonder, what are the rules of engagement when partners are both filmmakers? He's of course working on his magnum opus, which is now stalled. He must be filled with filmmaking energy. Did you use him as a bouncing board at all? Do you have sort of rules about we don't talk about each other's projects? How does it work?
So many people ask me why I'm not directing films. Okay. So my usual answer is that when you have Aishwarya Rai at home, you dare not, participate in a beauty pageant and lose. Okay. So I have this, I have this money at home. So whatever film I make, it's going to be like pale, in his presence.
Not true. But, that is not true.
It's not true, but that's a nice excuse, isn't it? Good line. I'm a writer, you see, so I pick up lines like this. So, but Mani and I work very well together. I think that's the best part of our marriage. And I always explain this to people. There is a nice big table in our bedroom, huge one, which is mine. And he doesn't have, for a long time, he didn't have a table at all at home. It was my table, which is big. And then he would sit on the bed, uncomfortable bed, and with a pad. And both of us will talk, and then the scenes will be born, literally be born. Will be made. So we really work very well together. But the thing is, he's a filmmaker, and he's been a filmmaker even before I came into his life. So I don't have to write and get involved in every film of his. And I also I want to be the audience and see his film, when it's all complete, so that there is a nice point of view from my perspective. So I'm lazy. So I just move away from his film, and then I see the film and say very nice or not very nice. So this is how it is. I have written for him for many films. You must have heard about it. At least 4-5 films. I've been a writer for him. When lockdown is when we were really locked down, 2 people, and we started writing together. In fact, we wrote quite a lot of short stories together. And this was the 6th story that we wrote together. I mean, it was my idea because the characters were all picked from my family, and I gave him the idea. And we work in a particular way. I don't want to go on explaining it. What I do is I write the complete scenes and everything. He takes it and then he starts editing it and makes a one line and asks me to go back and write. He's literally like an editor of a book, and proofreading and everything he does. And then he adds those lines and things like that. So it was really wonderful working with him. And he was really thrilled writing these 6 stories. And this is the 6th story that we did. And I'm glad the last story got, to be seen by so many people and to be staged on the same platform as these able directors.
How lovely.
So it is. We didn't, by the time because this is the 6th story we were writing, short story we were writing together, we had fine-tuned our quarrels and our disagreements and things like that. So it was okay. At one point I did tell him, I'm not directing this. You can ask any of your husbands to direct it, because they're saying cinematography, there can be 4 people, but on the acting side, there can be only 3 people. I can't work with all these. And then he made me wait for about 2-3 days, and I calmed down, and then that's how it is. And he saw the first edit. Prasad sat together. I was sitting there and they were like chopping my baby into pieces, and finally it was a nice chubby baby.
So this was like a co-written? Is that how it is?
Yes, yes. And I'm giving him credit for writing.
Okay.
He might not give me credit, but I'll give him credit.
Is there any other function that he performed on this film?
Actually, I didn't have an assistant director because at that point, like I think one of the girls who was supposed to come and work with me, her mother was COVID positive, Ashisha. So I didn't know what to do. There was nobody to even write the scene numbers because I was acting too. Then he offered that, can I come and help you? I said, no, you don't have to come. I don't want somebody, looking over me, over my shoulder and directing. I don't want anybody. So anyway.
That would be lovely to have Mani sir as an assistant.
And then music also. Music. He was so possessive about the music, I have to tell you. He was so possessive about the music. In the beginning, my cinematographer thought it's too verbose. Everybody's talking. But then actually when we finished, there was so much of space for music. Mani said, this needs Ilaiyaraaja. This needs Rahman. That kind of a thing. I said, no, I'm not going to Ilaiyaraaja and Rahman. I want a youngster who knows today's youngsters, family and everything. So we chose this guy called Satish, who's a very good, composer. But then he was so possessive, and, the briefs, he was giving Satish the briefs, and Satish was more than happy. And I was the shoulder he used to cry on. Mani sir is saying something that I think I'm not able to do, So he had good training from Mani in terms of music composing.